welcome back to the podcast. We are on episode 5. Whew, shit, man. What the fuck is happening in America? It's pretty crazy to think that we're under threat of fascism. That sounds alarmist, to say the least, but it's true. A lot more stuff going on that I'm unaware of, but for example, in Minnesota, they were trying, I don't know, I gotta check up on it, but they were trying to expel another senator because she's transgender and she was speaking out against the transgender bill that they're trying to pass there. Honestly, for me, it's insane that these fucking people are even deciding anything to do with our socio-political environment. It shouldn't be any of the government's business, to be honest. Those things should be handled among the people. It seems like a waste of money, time, resources. Not to mention what was happening in Tennessee. Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were expelled from, consequently leaving thousands of unrepresented people. That's pretty fucked up, right? It was amazing to see all the people show up and protest what these politicians were doing, because I think they've been doing whatever they want for a long time, and the majority of the people haven't been holding them accountable. We got too comfortable, and while we were busy being comfortable, they went and passed a bunch of fucking laws, created a bunch of false flag operations to get us to give up more rights. These things have been happening for a long time. It's a little bit of a long one, but
Iraq actually is a perfect example of the way the whole system works. So we economic hitmen are the first line of defense. We go in and we try to corrupt governments and get them to accept these huge loans, which we then use as leverage to basically own them. If we fail, as I failed in Panama with Omar Torrijos and in Ecuador with Jaime Roldos, men who refuse to be corrupted, then the second line of defense is we send in the jackals. And the jackals either overthrow governments or they assassinate. And once that happens and a new government comes in, and boy, it's going to toe the line, because the new president knows what will happen if he doesn't. In the case of Iraq, both of those things failed. Economic hitmen were not able to get through to Saddam Hussein. We tried very hard. We tried to get him to accept a deal very similar to what the House of Saud had accepted in Saudi Arabia, but he wouldn't accept it. And so the jackals went in to take him out. They couldn't do it. His security was very good. After all, he had one time worked for the CIA. He'd been hired to assassinate a former president of Iraq and failed, but he knew the system. So in '91, we send in the troops and we take out the Iraqi military. So we assume at that point that Saddam Hussein is going to come around. We could have taken him out, of course, at that time, but we didn't want to. He's the kind of strong man we like. He controls his people. We thought he could control the Kurds and keep the Iranians in their border and keep pumping oil for us. And then once we took out his military, now he's going to come around. So the economic hitmen go back in the 90s without success. If they'd had success, he'd still be running the country. We'd be selling him all the fighter jets he wants and everything else he wants. But they couldn't, they didn't have success. The jackals couldn't take him out again, so we sent the military in once again, and this time we did the complete job and took him out, and in the process created for ourselves some very, very lucrative construction deals. We had to reconstruct a country that we'd essentially destroyed, which is a pretty good deal if you own construction companies, big ones. So, Iraq shows the 3 stages. The economic hitmen failed there, the jackals failed there, and as a final measure, the military goes in. And in that way, we've really created an empire, but we've done it very, very subtly. It's clandestine. All the empires of the past were built on the military, and everybody knew they were building them. So the British knew they were building them, the French, the Germans, the Romans, the Greeks, and they were proud of it. And they always had some excuse, like spreading civilization, spreading some religion, something like that. But they knew they were doing it. We don't. The majority of the people in the United States have no idea that we're living off the benefits of a clandestine empire, that today there's more slavery in the world than ever before.
This reminds me of what Helen Watts said about governments and court systems and stuff like that. They imply royalty. That's why these judges, politicians, president, everybody, they all have armed guards, everybody around them. That's why it's not allowed to joke or laugh or anything, because everything is serious business. And it's meant to remind you of your place and keep you in fear, when in fact the ones with the power are the ones that are really scared, because they have to use these tactics to stay in power, to keep their power, to keep their money. I think a lot of these boomers are scared, especially with all these protests that are happening with the younger generation. A lot of them are kids, teenagers, high school kids. They should be scared. I would love to see more unity, not just in America, but around the world. Around the world, we're all fighting for freedom. Iran, Paris just built up a blockade going across one of their highways. They turned off the power to a bunch of rich politicians and rich people. They stormed Blackstone's headquarters. That was amazing to hear and see. I saw clips of them storming the headquarters. In case you didn't know, I think I talked about it last episode, but Blackstone, they're a financial investment firm that hold trillions of dollars. Probably most of the world's financial monies are stored with them. And it's commonly known that they're very corrupt. Lockheed Martin, all those places fall in the same category. So, trying to think of what kind of things we need to do, the actions we need to take we will need to take more drastic measures. We need to disrupt the system. We need to make their lives uncomfortable, because they don't exist to us, really. They exist in their own reality. They're in their own bubble. And when you live like that, how can you make proper decisions for a majority of people? It's like you got blinders on. People in office should be working lower class people, and there shouldn't be any incentive to make more money by passing policies or laws. Lobbyists obviously should be non-existent. It's crazy that even exists. Keep protesting. Keep doing it. Keep contacting your senators. Harass them. It's their job to serve us. They need to be reminded of that. And we need to put them in their place. If not, we'll have another revolution. Not that it hasn't already started, but it will be a bloody one, and I don't think anybody wants that. More TikToks. I have a few more videos to show you. Okay, this one, kind of just like a motivator.
Governments are supposed to protect their citizens and uphold their rights. But what happens when governments become corrupt and start abusing their power? What happens when those in charge prioritize their own interests over the well-being of their people? We've seen the dangers of unchecked government power play out in many ways, from police brutality to government surveillance to censorship of free speech. When those in power are not held accountable, the consequences can be disastrous. And when citizens try to speak out against these abuses, they are often met with violence and oppression. But why does this happen? Why do governments become corrupt and abuse their power? The problem with government is that it attracts those who seek power for its own sake. And once they have that power, they will do whatever it takes to keep it, even if that means trampling on the rights of their citizens. But it's not just the politicians who are to blame. It's also the systems and structures that allow corruption to thrive. The two-party system, for example, often leads to a lesser of two evils mentality, where citizens are forced to choose between bad options. It's like being forced to choose between two poisonous snakes. No matter which one you pick, you're going to get hurt. And yet this is the reality of our political system. But there is hope. We've seen citizens all over the world rise up and demand change. We've seen the power of collective action and the importance of holding those in power accountable. We must continue to speak out against corruption and fight for a government that truly serves the people.
I want to show you another one. This one is from the movie The Matrix.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
And I think that's very true. The Matrix, the philosophical implications of that movie are phenomenal. It's a great study. But as far as what he's talking about in the system, we can relate to, let's say, the conscious revolution. There's a lot of people who don't want that equality. I've seen it everywhere. It's all over the fucking comment section. And those people will fight for this unbalanced, racist, classist system. They will protect it with every might of their being. Even though, ideally, I think everybody wants a better world for everybody, even those assholes, you know? What I think we need in America is therapy. God damn it. Did it turn off? Okay, well, I guess that's the end of the podcast. Fucking hey, my camera died. But I think I got the point across. Let's come together, guys. Let's come together, people. We can worry about the petty bullshit later, but what we need to worry and focus on is fixing our society, fixing our government, so that power mongers can't take over, can't fill their pockets anymore, can't pass policies and laws that only benefit corporations and turn the people into slaves. Fuck that. I encourage you to check out what's happening in France. Everybody, the few people who actually listen or watch this, but if we can come together as a world people, the resistance will be a lot more powerful. And we can possibly see some semblance of peace in the future. And I'm not delusional to the fact it can't all be ups with no downs. That's not how the universe works. There will always be ups and downs, but we can make a better place for us, for our future. We can actually care about what our children's future look like, not just say it. Thanks for watching. That's about it. Peace, guys.